Okay, welcome everybody to our webinar today, and thank you so much for joining. So my name is Pagan Aspinall, and I will be hosting the session today on how the Oxford Executive Diploma empowers women. So just a few things before we begin. This session is being recorded, so if you do have to drop off at any point, then don't worry, you will receive the recording about a week after the event. We also have a Q&A function that should be working. So if you do have any questions as we're going along, please do put them in the Q&A and we'll get to that at the end. In terms of the agenda, I'm going to start by, talking about the Executive Diploma generally, before we move on to the panel discussion. And then we'll round off with a Q&A session and some information about how you can apply. So with all that said, so the Executive Diploma, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Executive Diploma, here at Saïd Business School, which is the business school based at the University of Oxford, we have a portfolio of 5 executive diplomas, which were created off the back of our very successful, highly ranked executive MBA program. So the executive MBA is a 2-year program with about 18 modules. So it's quite a bit of a commitment. So what the school decided to do was to take a specialized area that you focus on in the executive MBA and make it a standalone qualification. So each of our diplomas focuses on a specialized area of business. So we have one in AI for business, global business, financial strategy, organizational leadership, and strategy and innovation. In terms of the format, they are all part-time programs. So it's designed for busy executives who can hold down their full-time job while doing this part-time. And the program takes 1 year to complete. There are 4 modules within that year that you need to do. And for each module, there are 4 to 5 days of teaching, depending on which diploma you do. Most of them do take place in Oxford, so you would need to come to Oxford 4 times a year. Apart from this year, we have introduced a new online diploma, which is in strategy and innovation. In terms of the level of the qualification level, it is a master's level qualification, so it's taught at that kind of master's level 7 level. But the exact qualification you get upon completion is postgraduate diploma. And it's important to stress that this is an accredited qualification from the University of Oxford that you receive. In terms of the teaching, it is a highly practical and discussion-led. So as I mentioned before, everybody in the class will be a executive with many years of work experience, and everyone is expected to participate and share their perspectives and their experiences with the class. So you really do learn from your peers just as much as you do from the professors. And of course, being Oxford, it is also academically rigorous, and there is an assessment following each module. There is 1 intake per year, and depending on which diploma you do, it will either be in January, February, or March. And the course fee for this year is £33,900. So what can you expect from your cohort? So obviously this varies kind of every year and from diploma to diploma, but on average, there's about 42 participants in each diploma, and they're all highly diverse. So not only will you find lots of different sectors represented in the class and people coming from different industries, but also it's a very globally diverse program. So in every class, you will see around 22 different nationalities represented. And that spans the entire globe. Every continent is pretty much represented in every diploma class. In terms of the years of work experience, like I said, this is a program for experienced professionals, and the average is about 16 years, with the average age being 41. But of course, this is just the average. We do have people in the class who are around their late 20s up until their 60s. So there's no kind of age limits or anything like that. And one of the other great benefits of doing this program is that upon completion, you will join the Oxford Business Alumni Network. So your time here at Oxford, your journey at Oxford does not end at the end of your diploma. You do have a lifelong connection to the school and the university through the alumni network. And this is a really active global network. As you can see, we have 20 regional chapters in some of the really key thriving global regions all throughout the world, as you can see on the screen, with over 24,000 members. And there's loads of benefits you get from being part of this community. For example, you get access to various library databases, so you can continue studying after your program is finished. There's also many events throughout the year, either in person or online, locally or globally. You also get access to the LinkedIn group and potentially alumni discounts as well if you want to continue further study at Oxford. And I think it's important to mention as well that this is not just a network for people who've graduated from Said Business School. Actually, anyone who's completed a degree at the University of Oxford who works in business will can also become part of this network. So you do get a very diverse group of people in this network. So I mentioned before that the diploma programme was modelled after the Oxford Executive MBA. So I just wanted to highlight that after your diploma is finished, if you are keen to continue your learning journey at Oxford, there is a pathway to the Executive MBA. So this is a 2-year part-time programme. And if you've completed a diploma, you will receive a fee reduction. And there's no time limit for that, so you can apply, many years after you've done the diploma. And you also receive 4 exemptions from 4 of the module assessments. There is a time limit for that, though. It has to be within 5 years of completing the diploma. So you still need to apply for the programme. It's not a guaranteed entry, but this is an option that many of our diploma students take, just because they get so much out of the experience and learn so much on their diploma programme. They don't want that experience to finish. So many of them do choose to do the Executive MBA afterwards. So that is the Executive Diploma in a nutshell. I'm now very pleased and excited to introduce our panel members to you. So we have Barbara and Gilly are both alumni who completed their respective programs last year, and Yasreen is actually a current student doing financial strategy. They're probably much better placed to introduce themselves than I am. So maybe if we start alphabetically, if we go Barbara, Gilly, and then Yasreen, if you could just tell the audience, what you do for a living, where you're based, and also maybe, why you applied for the Executive Diploma in the first place. So Barbara, over to you, please.
Thanks so much, Pagan. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Pagan has introduced my name. I'm Barbara Chesire, and I live in Nairobi, Kenya. Although I grew up in a little town on the western part of Kenya called Eldoret, which is a little town that's called the City of Champions. I run a social enterprise called AB Entheos, and AB Entheos I've been running it now for 10 years, and we are curating, designing, and implementing inclusive financial solutions in Africa. And we have a bias towards building resilience through insurance. So, Pagan, your big question about why, what drew me to the Oxford program. And as I was reflecting on this, I thought about, okay, I finished my undergraduate degree 15 years ago. And every year since then, I kept going back and saying, okay, I need to go back and do my postgraduate. And every year, there's always been an excellent excuse why I couldn't do it. So either a new job, a baby, a new business, and every year comes with its new season and new things in life. And I just could not find the right time to go back to school. But the year before, I was going through a personal transition, and I just had this feeling that I really wanted to redefine who I am, and I needed to chart really the next phase of my life. I felt like I was in a transition into a new season of my life. And I had a choice to either hide and wait for the wind to blow over or choose to ride this crazy wave that was coming my way. And I chose the latter. And for me, part of choosing to ride this wave was actually going back to school. And I thought, okay, I've waited this long. I might as well go to the best university that I can find. I ended up, just how serendipity works. I ended up interacting with an Oxford professor from a completely different, on a completely different context. And I think it encouraged me to think about going back. And because I work in insurance, I felt the Said Business School was really where I wanted to be. And I just felt I needed to sharpen myself. I turned 40 2 weeks ago, and I knew I was coming into this new decade. I feel 40 to 50 is a very defining time of anyone's life. And I wanted to be ready for this new decade in my life. So that's why I was attracted to this program, or rather to Oxford. Going into the program, of course, we can discuss that later. And also just realizing that sometimes when you can no longer change a situation, then you're challenged to change yourself. And that's me. Thanks, Pagan.
Thanks, Barbara. No, it's really inspiring, and I'm glad that you finally made the leap, after many years of considering postgraduate study. So yeah, Gilly, let's move over to you, please.
Thank you, Pagan. So hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Gilly Furter. I'm currently located in Israel. I'm from here originally. I'm managing my life currently on the line between Tel Aviv and London. I just graduated. I'm traveling to the UK really soon for my ceremony graduation in strategy and innovation program. Currently, I'm managing a consulting firm with two peers of mine that I was introducing during the program. And in addition, I'm willing to promote women in the VC world. So I'm currently working on fundraising the first VC fund. I was applying to the program originally because I was a good candidate for a promotion in the company I used to work with. But I changed my career path, which is also a big part of the program benefits. And I realized that I want to do something a bit different than I thought. And I found this great program at Oxford. And it sounds like an amazing opportunity to increase my network and to help me to be more accurate about what I want to do. And I found this amazing program, which lets me to be an owner of a consultancy firm, which is a great achievement of mine. Besides the fact that the program affects on my personal life as well, in a very good way. So I'm really grateful to be here today to share my story, but also to encourage everyone else to do the same.
Thank you, Gilly. And then Yasreen, last but not least.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Yasreen Banyaya. My role today is I'm heading an innovation department in a satellite company. So I'm in charge of coming up with internal creative initiatives. So if you want, almost building the internal startup factory within the business. Where I'm based in London. Though I'm half French, half Moroccan, and grew up in Morocco. I've been in the UK now for about 15 years or more. And the UK feels now like home. And to answer the question, why did I apply to the diploma? It's because I could see, as I said, I'm more focused on engineering activities, but more and more my initiatives require creations of joint ventures or building investment case that are quite complex and carry quite a lot of risks. And so I wanted to be able to speak the executive language a little bit better, be able to understand the challenges they're thinking about in the context of the entire company. Also having the responsibility to work a lot on startup initiatives, to understand also the challenges around working with startups and the combination of finance and strategy, I thought was very appealing as well. Because sometimes you could work with people who are very finance focused, but are missing the strategy dimension, or vice versa. And combining the two together, I thought was a very powerful approach. And on top of that, the thing that was appealing is also the format. No time to completely give up on work and focus only in studies, even though I wish. And so this brings the right balance between continuing your job and at the same time being able to upgrade yourself with new skills without giving away completely your daily activities.
Great, thanks. And that actually feeds really nicely onto the kind of talking about, keeping your job while doing studies, feeds nicely onto the kind of first topic that I wanted to talk about, which is all about balance. So, obviously, as we all know, women, generally get burdened with a kind of unfair division of labor. Women are still sort of expected to take care of childcare and sort of home duties while also maintaining their own jobs. And, understandably, this can sort of deter people from applying to things like graduate programs. But Barbara is a really great example of someone who, managed to successfully do this. So, not only does she have 2 young children, but she's also managing director of her social enterprise. So Barbara, really great to hear your kind of perspectives on this. And my first question would be, I know you said you've been thinking for many years about maybe doing a program and you kept putting it off, but did you have any sort of apprehensions or doubts about whether you could do it? And if so, how did you overcome those apprehensions?
So for me, you've mentioned Pagan, I'm a mother. I'm also a mother to my business because I've run this business for the last 10 years. And with 2 young children, my 2 daughters are 10 and 8. And then my work takes me across Africa. So we work across, we've done work in 12 countries in Africa. So constantly traveling for work. Then of course, traveling. Now there was this idea that I would also be traveling because of school to Oxford. So for me, it was, first of all, one of the biggest apprehensions I had was the financial burden of going back to school. And of course, apart from the financial burden, then the other side of trying to balance children and work, which before I joined Oxford, it was already a challenge because I would spend half my time traveling across Africa. And then the third one is now bringing in the aspect of school and what it would mean in terms of traveling. I think the biggest, one of the things I accepted, and I think as women, we find it very difficult to accept help from people around us. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest things that I just said, okay, I have a cousin who is willing to help me watch the children while I'm away. I'm not going to say no. I have my mom who is willing to come and stay with them while I'm away, even if it's for 2 weeks. And I'm willing to do that. Before I wasn't, because I would literally try and do everything on my own. And then I'm also very lucky because I have a co-founder, Anne. And we had this discussion before I decided to take this plunge. And I told her, I'll need to travel more than usual. And I think it's also been a really good transition because then my company, ABN Fields, becomes way more than just Barbara or Anne. It becomes a lot more than that because I remember one of my first, I was taking on a new government, the government of Namibia, as a client. And we were supposed to go for an initial meeting, which clashed at exactly the same time as one of my programs. And I had to, of course, choose to come to school instead of going to Namibia. And one of my 2 other colleagues stepped in for me. And I know the government team were like, so your MD could not make the time to come and meet us, And it was difficult, but we had told them I have to be in school. But I think that has also given my business the opportunity to grow beyond me. So I think just accepting that other people can help you and allowing them to step in for me has been how I've been able to cope with these apprehensions.
Yeah, amazing. No, thank you. That's very inspiring. And yeah, if you have any, if you were talking to a woman on the call who was worried about the same thing, what would you say to her to kind of to motivate her to sort of overcome any doubts or insecurities she might have?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things, and this could sound very cliche, but I always believe that we have to fill our cups before we can really give to others. And for me, filling my cup meant sharpening my skills, widening my network, so that I can be able to give more to my business, more to my the colleagues I work with, and even more to my children. Because really, when I see even how inspired my two girls are, they're like, my mom can go to Oxford. What more can I do? And I think for me, that would be my advice to anyone out there, especially if you have young children or if you have a business that you're running, that I think we should step back and say, I also need to fill my own cup and be happy with myself, so that I can be able to really give to others and to to the people around me and to my business.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and I think you're right. I think that sort of stereotypically as women, there's a tendency to sort of people please and put other people sort of before us, but actually it's okay to sort of invest back in yourself and say, no, actually I need to do this for me. So that's really inspiring, and hopefully a lot of women on the call will start thinking that way too. So I just want to turn to sort of the next theme of the session, which is around the kind of outcomes that you can expect from doing a program like this, and how the program can benefit you professionally as a woman. So Gilly, I'm going to sort of throw this over to you next, if that's okay, because you've got a really good story actually about how your network, and you mentioned it when you were introducing yourself, how the network on the program led you to creating something really interesting. So do you want to share that story with us?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned earlier, my original plan was completely different. I thought I will be promoted to the next level in the management. But I realized that it's something that I'm not necessarily want to do. And over time, and at the same time, I had the privilege to meet a lot of people around the world and collaborate with them and working with them in the class, but also to social with them afterwards. And we realized that we have a lot in common. We have a lot of mutual subjects that we want to share, and we have the same struggle in our workplace that we want to tackle. And we have noticed that there is a lot of value that we can roll out to the next level and basically take what we have learned in the class and apply it to the real world, if it makes sense. And obviously we had like a few ideas of how we want to create this consultancy firm. We have established it. So, and we have decided to come together and bring the ideas and the value proposition that we can offer to the business that we're going to work with afterwards. And we finalize some sort of services that we can provide. But I think that the main takeaway from this experience was the fact that if you can do the upgrading and leverage the connection that you had during the program to do something even bigger than just studying together, which is an amazing experience by its own. But if you want to really experience the change and do something really meaningful, so I think to take it to the next level and create something on your own with your colleagues and your peers, for me, it's a life-changing decision. Since we have decided to do that, we're establishing the consultancy firm. We had a few clients in the UK, but also here in Israel. And obviously, we are aiming to grow in the next following months. We do all the time cooking the idea of what should we do next, according to the fact that we have the AI that is changing the game, and many other innovational trends that coming in, and how to pretty much leverage the whole thing into something that it's really meaningful to the business. So on the personal level, I think that the network, the tools, the knowledge, but also the courage to do stuff on your own, this is one of the main key takeaway that I can tell that I was gained during the program. And I think that without it, I'm not sure I would do it, but definitely not like that, not in this global scale, not in this professional team, not in this massive network connection that is available to us, which is an asset, a really precious asset that you don't necessarily have when you start a business. So if you know how to take it and leverage it to something that you want to do on your own and to make something that you feel really meaningful. So I personally, I can tell that this is one of my greatest achievement, besides the fact that they are really good friends of mine. This is, as you said earlier, it's a long life connection. It's a bulletproof. I can tell that it is. So also in the professional level, but also in the personal level, this is like one of the gifts that I've earned during this program.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's a really great story of just how important the networks can be on the executive diploma. Out of interest, how many of there are you involved in this?
So we started as 3, now we are 4. And we have a business model that includes also out resource. So it depends on the project that we are using, but we are willing to grow, and hopefully it will be better and bigger during the years without losing our focus, which is value. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, you've already gained 1 new member, so clearly, you know, they saw it was working, and more people will hopefully join, and it will continue to grow.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Yasreen, let's hear from you next, because you also have quite a similar story. So even though you only started your program at Said in January, so for everyone listening, Yasreen has also completed an executive MBA at a previous institution, and I think your story of what you gained from that is just really highlights how executive education generally can really lead to successful outcomes professionally. So are you happy to talk about your kind of investment fund?
Yes, absolutely. So I've done the executive MBA back in 2016, similar as Oxford. So it's a 2-year executive MBA in part-time. And not only you gain, I mean, back to Gilly's point, you gain lifetime friendships that are invaluable. Like I would pay 10 times the same fees just to maintain those friendships. So very, very valuable friendships. More than a network, is really people that are like-minded, and it's stimulating because you're sharing ideas and concepts and everything throughout the rest of your life that keeps you really relevant. So there's the value of this closed network that you can call in anytime and ask for any advice and brainstorm, etc. But what I also discovered out of this experience is that we had such a good cohesive cohort that once we finished, we were like, that's it. Are we not staying in touch? Are we not doing something together? And so what we've done is we created an investment fund together with the entire cohort that invest in startups at a very early stage. So it's an angel investment fund where we all put a little bit of our own cash. But most importantly, we gain experience about due diligence and about how to manage a deal flow, how to invest with syndicate investment funds. So as I said earlier, I'm coming from an engineering background, not necessarily spend much time in the financial sector, but through this experience, learned so much about the startup ecosystem, the venture ecosystem, and it helped me as well in my daily job as head of innovation to stay aware of what's happening, whether it's in the biotech or the fintech or other sectors that are very different to the space sector, but at the same time, the innovation underlying all these technologies are common as well. The challenges are common, and so learned so much through this experience. So sometimes you can have very good surprises beyond the plan you had set up for yourself. You discover things that you were never imagining you would get out of and do afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I tell people who are thinking about Oxford. You know, I think what you guys have really highlighted is that, you know, you think you're coming to the program because you want to learn about financial strategy or strategy innovation, and then actually Oxford just opens all these doors to you that you didn't even know existed. and you can sort of explore all these sort of different avenues. So yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that's really interesting. And again, Barbara has a really interesting story as well, about how her network in global business diploma led to something really interesting. Are you happy to share that story with us, Barbara?
Yeah, I figured I can. One of my classmates was a deputy minister with the government of Lithuania. And during our last module, which was end of last year, I just, we were walking from dinner, and I just told him, you should think of coming to visit Kenya. And he said, you know what? Lithuania is actually like a startup, and he said we would love to be able to do business with Africa, especially when it comes to technology. And he felt there was a similarity between Kenya, because Kenya is called the Silicon Savannah, and Lithuania is looked at as this tech hub for the world and maybe for Europe. And maybe fast forward in April, he visited Kenya with with a group of government, the minister from the Foreign Affairs Ministry, a team from government and the business community as well. And we were able to organize incredible meetings between the two governments, so the government of Kenya and the government of Lithuania. And I think, we see, one of the things that came out is that, even Lithuania is thinking about setting up possibly an embassy in Kenya because they don't have one, and trying to create even stronger business ties between the two countries. So I think it was really incredible that sometimes it can be something that really goes beyond you or your business. But maybe, Pagan, if you can allow me to add one more thing that I think for me really came out from the global business diploma, is just this confidence that you can actually run a global business. And I think coming from Africa, we always think it's businesses from the West that are global. But I think just changing my mind and also realizing that we can have global businesses from Africa. And I think just opening up my mind also, if I look at my business from the time I started the diploma, and I'm not trying to say that it is because of the diploma that my business grew, but we've grown exponentially, from having just 8 full-time staff to 12 full-time and over 40 field staff that we're currently in the field in Kenya, because we're running a project with the government. And even that confidence of being able to do business with governments, I think that's something that comes out very strongly in the global business diploma, how to work with governments. And I think that's given me quite a strategic mind. As I'm going to different parts of Africa, I know how to interact with different governments depending on the temperament and what we're trying to achieve. So I thought I should just add that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm glad you did, because actually I was going to touch upon some of the other things that you can benefit from doing the diploma, such as confidence, because that's something that I hear from our both male and female alumni really, is that the kind of confidence that you grow as a leader and as a professional. Gilly or Yasreen, do either of you want to weigh in on that? Did you feel like, I've had people say that, doing the program, it teaches you kind of like the language of the board and, how you can kind of work across diverse borders with different nations and different industries. Is that something you two felt as well?
Yes, absolutely. And if you want, I can start and then Gilly can take over. For me, it's been, it gave me as you said, it gave me the language to formulate what I was trying to convey and what I thought was important to do. And it led me to, for example, the creation of this disruptive innovation department that I'm heading at the moment. It's almost allowed me to carve out a role that was a perfect match to my personality and my center of interest. If I hadn't had done an executive education, I would have thought, oh, there may be other people who can do it better. They know how to communicate the message. I thought I would maybe I was not able to shape it the right way. Like I was coming with all my doubts, And knowing that now I have this layer of knowledge that makes me comfortable, that I have enough understanding on the various pillars that a business rely on, I feel like I'm capable. I'm the right person for the job, and I can convey that with a little bit more confidence than the doubts I used to have, that actually were unfounded, by the way. but it's just that I needed to be sure that I was conveying the message the right way, and that's what an executive diploma gives you, is I don't like to always say women have lack of confidence, because sometimes we put ourselves in a box that is not helping us, but it gives you the right way of conveying your messages that the corporate world understand.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Yes, I do really agree with all what you said. I think personally I'm experienced the cultural differences that might be happening sometimes when you're running like a global business, but in the end of the day you realize that behind every business there are people, and when you realize it, you can be much more compassionate about the differences, and you're learning over time how to get this kind of different perspective about stuff, because during the time, sometimes when you have like different perspective on many stuff that related to the business, so many transactions can go wrong, or maybe some ideas can go lost in the conversation, but it doesn't mean that it's have to end up and not achieving your goals. So I think, and the connection itself, it's another thing that we need to value. So I do agree with everything that you just said. I can relate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to move the conversation on a little bit now to talking about funding, because this is obviously another obstacle that people, including women, obviously face when thinking about graduate study. So Barbara and Yasreen actually were successful in obtaining one of the scholarships that we have here. Barbara was a director's scholar, and Yasreen is one of our women's scholar. And so these scholarships that we have available, they're up to about 50% of the fees. So this does mean that candidates do have to find the sort of additional funding as well. And many people go to their employer to sort of seek support, and that's something that Yasreen actually managed to do successfully. She managed to get some employer support. So Yasreen, it would be really helpful if you could share your kind of experience of that, and what you did, and what you think worked well and what didn't, etc.
So yeah, that's because usually those degrees are quite expensive, and you need to go and think about it seriously before you jump into it. And so point number one, there are always scholarships for most of those executive programs. The question is, are you going to be able to get it? And so in the case of the financial strategy diploma, there was the director scholarship, there was the women's scholarship, and there's another one called the Oxford University Scholarship. So I applied to the three of them because I didn't know which one would. I'm a director, I'm a woman, and I thought, why not also trying the university one? But you need to be mindful of the timeline as well. Some of those scholarships are allocated quite early in the application process, so don't leave it too far towards the end, otherwise you may miss some of the scholarship allocation windows. And what do you put forward is for the director scholarship, you put forward the key things you've been doing that demonstrate your director's curriculum. For the women's scholarship, I put forward all the stuff I've done for women in general. I created the women's network within the company I work for. So those are the things you've done in the past out of goodwill, and suddenly one day it's paying off because you've done quite a lot of things to help women also expand. And I put forward also the key value I could bring to the diploma, my unique space profile that you might not be able to find easily, but that would augment the value of the cohort and things like that. So it's really, when you apply to the scholarship, really think about the value you're bringing as much as, and why the university should support you into this process. The second, and out of the three applications, one got successful, and I was very pleased to see that Oxford offered a 50% discount, which is quite significant. And so then I had to figure out the remaining. bearing in mind I could have potentially paid with my own savings, but why not using, first of all, the opportunities you have before you inject your own capital? So then I moved on to building a case also in parallel internally within the company I work for. So this is about building a business case to your employer. It's about the value you can bring if you do this degree. It's about how you're going to focus. Often I try to explain that I'm going to focus some of my papers also towards key strategic programs I've been involved on. So the outcome of the homework and the exams and things like that will bring value, and I almost try to quantify that value to the business. I also did the same when I did an executive MBA. There's a consultancy project. I said I'm going to do the consultancy project for the business, etc., to kind of shape it in a way that they see value for them. And so once you've done all of that, is then helping raise, like bootstrapping family, and then you raise obviously debt if that's needed. But one other perhaps last point I'd like to bring is it's not possible to go to a company and say, could you please sponsor my degree, without having done years of almost building your brand. Why would they invest into you? Why? Because you have that growth plan for yourself, and they also see that in you, and therefore the business case for them becomes easier because you've been that coherently sending that message over the years.
Great, no, that's really amazing and really useful. Thank you. Barbara, I know you obviously won the Directors Award, but it obviously was a while ago now. Do you have any tips that you can remember, or no worries if not? I'm sort of throwing you on the spot here.
No, no worries. Now, I was looking back and just trying to think of, what possibly made my application stand out for the Directors Award. And I think for me, possibly number one is really just being as authentic as possible in terms of how you put across why, what you do and why it's important in the world. And I think also just ensuring that your application it's not about you and just you wanting a scholarship so that you can go to Oxford, but what does that scholarship mean to you being able to come to Oxford and therefore being able to take that knowledge back into your field of study. And for me, I remember one of the key things that I'm so passionate about is I believe that insurance is a missing link for the sustainable development of Africa. And that's something that I carry with me in everything that I do. And I think I spoke about it quite passionately in my application, that if Oxford would see it fit to give me a scholarship so that I can, pursue this, then really what that means for the resilience for Kenya and for the people that I work with is so much greater. The ROI for the world is so much greater than just me. So I think it's just also looking at a bigger picture and not just making it about, I want a scholarship, but what impact will you have in the world once you have that scholarship?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. That is definitely something I would say that the scholarship committees do look at is, obviously it's important to highlight your own experiences and your strengths and your academic background, but also what can you do? How are you going to pay this forward? We don't want to just give you a scholarship and then you just take it and keep it to yourself, but how are you going to use your knowledge, what you've learned on the program to sort of benefit the greater good, either women or, your region. So yeah, that's a really, really good bit of advice there, Barbara. So thank you for everyone. We have had some questions come through, so I think it might be good to sort of get to some of those. And there's one specifically for Yasreen, which is quite an interesting one. About why, if you've already done the executive MBA, why did you then choose to do the executive diploma after that?
Very good question, because the executive MBA gives you finance and accounting trainings as well. I felt that was my weak point. And when you do a dedicated diploma, you go way deeper in those topics. So I've noticed that because you're focusing only on one field, really, is finance for a whole year, then obviously you already now, I feel like I've got this concept a little bit clearer in my head. But when you do the executive MBA, you touch so many topics and you're so much in a rush in doing everything that you have a good breadth, but the depth you're lacking. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, that's where I thought that would be a useful experience, and I don't regret it. The teaching is amazing.
Great, wonderful. Thank you. We're a bit low on questions actually. So just to the audience, if anyone does have any questions, please don't be shy. Please do put them in the Q&A chat. We would love to answer them. We do have one here, which is around. So this person is asking, does this course only familiarize yourself with management topics, or does it actually teach you how to find investors and turn the business plan into an operational business? I think that's quite a sort of specific one. I mean, I suppose I could take that and say that the program kind of gives you the tools and the right kind of frameworks to do that. We wouldn't necessarily, link you up with potential investors or help you specifically create your business as a school, but I suppose we're giving you the knowledge to do that, and obviously the right kind of forum as well to sort of find contacts who you can maybe make a business with. Does any of the panel want to add to that? I mean, obviously you've done the program, unlike me, so you might have more insight into that.
Yeah, I feel quite confident to answer that. So especially in the strategy and innovation program, I can tell that I felt like I have some tools to do like a proper business plan and know how to recruit some and source some deal flow and potential investors. But I think that after the program, I gained much more of a useful updated tool to do that. And specifically in this program, you have a special module that called strategy and action, which is literally the thing itself. So for me, it was to the point, and I feel like it's really helped me to do this kind of stuff. So I can say in confidence that it is really helping you to take an overview about the operational business and to support your business plan and network, and how, as Pagan mentioned, a lot of knowledge that it's really useful if you know how to leverage it afterwards. So yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Barbara, did you want to add to that?
I want to add to what Gelia said, because I really, really agree with Gelia, and coming from a different program, global business. We have, and I'm sure it's the same in the other diplomas as well, we have the final integrative assignment that you do at the end, and you get the opportunity to pick a topic of your choice, something real, because the other assignments are case studies, but this particular one is real. You're expected to apply the frameworks from the entire program into either a new business you want to start, or a new a problem you want to tackle within your business. And for me personally, I actually picked a topic for a business that I wanted, not a business, but rather a project that I wanted to expand across the continent, across Africa. And it really gave me the opportunity to put it into frameworks that I would never have sat in my office and thought about thinking through the corporate diplomacy issues, the risk and reputational issues in this particular business, how you can work with governments. So I think even just doing that assignment really forced me into having to actually articulate it. And it's a paper that I shared with my colleagues at work, and I told them, guys, please read this, because I think this is applicable to what we are doing. And maybe the other application would also be, depending on you as a person, you can actually choose to bring depending on the topic, you can actually bring a problem that you have, and that's what we did in one of our modules. And for example, looking at scenario planning, and some of our colleagues had opportunities to bring real life scenarios into the program, and you have a team of consultants who are actually your classmates who are helping you think through using the frameworks from the class.
No, that's
Thanks.
amazing. Yeah. Thank you. And that's probably something I should have mentioned sooner, actually, is about the, you've touched on a good point, which is the final integrative assessment. So just for the audience, so Barbara did global business, but actually this is something that you do regardless of which diploma program you're on. And, you know, like she explained, it is a chance for you to really kind of dive deep into a specific project or a challenge that your company is facing in real time. And then you use what you've learned on the program to kind of fix the challenge or think about how you're going to try and build this new venture, how you're going to maybe grow your business overseas. So it's a very practical kind of assignment that will actually help you in your job. And I think that's something, you know, going back to what we're talking about seeking, making your business case to employers if you are seeking funding, is it's a really good idea to mention the final integrative assignment, because obviously you're going to be diving deep into an issue that's facing them at work, and what you find in your assignment will actually benefit them directly at the company. So it's definitely worth mentioning to your employers to kind of get their support. So there's a really good question here, something we haven't talked about yet, which is about the time commitment on the course, and sort of, you know, in between the modules, how much work you're expected to do, sort of how many hours per week. Maybe Gilly, are you happy to take this one? If you can remember from last year, sort of how much work you did outside of the modules.
Yes, definitely. So I would mention that there are the basics requirements that you are, you know, expected to take in order to keep up with the class. But at the same time, it really depends on you. How much deeper do you want to take it? Once it's something that it's really interesting for you, so you want to take a deep dive to it, and you can read and read until you're getting crazy. But at some point, you need to live your life at the same time and do your job and to be with your family and the loved ones. So for me, I would say that at the day, it's really hard for me to set like a time frame. I think it really depends on who you are, how fast do you read, and how quickly do you realize the complex and ideas. But I do think it's really doable, and you can run a business at the same time and be with your loved ones. So I do think that you can allocate for it, let's say, between 5 to 15 hours a week, depends on you and how do you like to do that. This was my personal approach to this one during the program itself, but specifically in the end of each module, you have an assignment that you want to excel in. So you're putting more of an effort in this one specifically. But again, I think it's really subjective. And I think the main takeaway that I can suggest is to find the specific program you feel like you're really interested in, because this will encourage you to put an effort, but at the same time, not forgetting your own day-to-day life. So it can complement your life and not be in a hustle, if it makes sense.
Yeah, great, thank you. So I've just noticed that's sort of the end of the questions. I do want to finish off by talking about a few details about how to sort of stay in touch. But let me just quickly ask a sort of final question to all the panel members. Maybe we'll start with Yasreen. I feel like we haven't spoken to you in a while. Yasreen and then Barbara and Gilly. Do you have any sort of final words you would say to any women watching who are maybe sort of questioning whether they can doubt it? Any sort of advice that you would give them?
Go for it. It's gonna be a life-changing experience. You're gonna build friendship forever. You're gonna think about life and work way differently, and don't think about it as if you do this, that means you're gonna get even more work afterwards. It's perhaps on the contrary. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the less crazy your work is, and the more efficient it is. And so, yes, it's a bit of a time sacrifice during the studies, but yeah, definitely worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Yasreen has said, and maybe just to say that I would, and I think I mentioned it at the beginning, I would encourage, you know, women and of course everyone else. I think women, we normally put everyone else first and then we are last. but I would actually encourage you as much as you can. Put yourself first in this particular scenario, invest in yourself, fill your cup, so that you can actually be able to give to others, to your business, to your family, and to also increase your confidence.
Yeah, so as I said, thank you. And I couldn't agree more. I think that, again, if you choose something that it's really complement your skills and your goal in your personal development, but also in your career. So I think that's the best thing that you can do in order to fill your cup and to take the right courage to do stuff that you didn't even thought about that you can capable of. And gain much more of just like a line on your resume as much as experience and knowledge and networking, that it's really precious and really rare these days, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Really inspiring to hear from you three around, you know, how you've managed to do this and all you've gained from it and the sort of confidence that you've grown from doing this program. And hopefully people on the call have been very inspired to apply. So I just want to finish off by just sharing a few slides, if I may, around how to apply. So I hope you can see that. So yeah, we are open for applications now, and we have a deadline coming up very soon, actually. It's the 1st of July. And that is quite an important deadline because it's the deadline by which you need to apply if you want to be considered for scholarships. So, you know, as we mentioned earlier, this is a program for experienced professionals. So to apply, you do need at least 5 years of relevant work experience in some sort of managerial capacity too. We also look for an undergraduate degree, preferably an upper second class qualification. But you know, if you don't meet that requirement, then it's definitely possible to compensate in other areas. We also need evidence of your English language proficiency if English is not your native language. So if you use English on a regular basis, if you are fluent, then you just need to provide a short statement to us in the application, just giving us some information about how often you use English and in what capacity. So the good news is there's no GMAT or GRE requirement for this, but you do need to provide us with a up-to-date CV, as well as your academic transcripts from any previous degree that you've done, and the details of 2 references that we can contact. At least one of those should be professional. There's also 2 short essays that you need to write. So a 500-word essay around why you're applying for the diploma and what you're hoping to gain from it. And the second essay is 500 words on what are your main achievements in your current role. So once you submit your application, the good news is there's no interview. You will receive a decision within about 4 to 6 weeks whether you've been accepted or not to the programme. Just want to quickly plug our next event as well, which is on the 19th of July. This will be a really interesting lecture. So Professor Teppo Felin will be talking about 2 very important topics, AI and strategy, and what every decision maker needs to know. So that should be really interesting and insightful. So I put a QR code up on the screen. If you scan that now, then it should take you through to the event. I'll just leave that up on for a second. Okay, and yeah, of course, we would love to hear from you as well, especially if you've not been in touch with us yet and you have any questions at all about the diploma or the application process, please get in touch with us. So there is a specific contact for each of the diplomas. So if you're interested in AI in business or global business, then please contact my colleague Jo Parton. I look after financial strategy. My colleague Hannah Gelder oversees organisational leadership, and Marta Schofield is the person to contact if you're interested in strategy and innovation. So that takes us to the end of the session, and I just want to say a massive thank you to our 3 wonderful panel members. You're all brilliant and you're all very busy, so I really appreciate you giving up your time to talk about a really important topic, and hopefully you've inspired women on the call today to take that step and fill their cup, as Barbara was saying. And thank you as well to the audience as well, anyone who tuned in and asked questions today. We, hopefully we'll see applications from you soon. And yeah, with that, I wish you a good day, and thank you again for coming today.